Paso a Paso podcast.
Hello, and welcome to another edition of the Paso a Paso podcast. My name is Miles. Happy to be here with you, both recording for our podcast listeners and those around the Taos, New Mexico area due to our partnership with KNCE. Today, we'll be discussing Youth Heartline, an organization who provides many services to the Taos community. And the person that will be sharing that information with us is Colleen. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Colleen Shaughnessy, and I'm the CAN, which is the Consortium Addressing Needs Program Manager at Youth Heartline.
Awesome. And Youth Heartline is an organization that I'm fairly familiar with, although it's even hard for me to, again, as with many of our interviewees here on the podcast, understand all the programs you offer. Can you share a few of those so people can understand what Youth Heartline does around in this community and beyond?
Yeah. So Youth Heartline has been in our community for about 30 years. Initially, I think the focus was on CASA, which is court-appointed special advocates who advocate for foster children in the court systems. And from there, the organization expanded to provide other services that met the needs of children in our community. And when I say our community, I mean the 8th Judicial District, which is Colfax, Union, and Taos counties. So we serve all 3 counties. We have several programs. The first is CASA, which I just mentioned, and we're often looking for volunteers who would be willing to serve as an advocate for foster children. And then we also have the Nurturing Parenting Program, which is a national trauma-informed curriculum that focuses on parenting with the substance use population. So we are now offering that course online due to COVID-19. And we also have Girls Circle and Boys Council. Both of those are national programs that operate in the schools. And if you know any children who are interested in that, we would welcome referrals as well. And those are 12 to 18-year-olds. And we also do a safe exchange and supervised visitation program, which allows non-custodial parents or guardians to meet with children. We are also running a community programming in the Goosedorf neighborhood as well as in Raton, where we do activities with families just to get them interacting with their kids and to provide different avenues for engagement with the community, but also within families that live in the same neighborhoods. I might be forgetting something, but that's what I remember right now.
No, and that's a great example of kind of what I was referring to. I was trying to, think about all the things you mentioned, and it feels like the consistent thread, I guess, is correct me if you phrase it differently, but the well-being of families in the areas that you serve. It sounds like there's programming that supports both children, their environment, and parents. Do you as a staff ever think about kind of the overall mission or the things and the threads that kind of pull all these programs together? Because I definitely am envisioning it, but I don't know if I could phrase it best.
I do. It's kind of part of my work as the CAN manager. So I would say child advocacy is a huge component of our mission, as well as, and so that incorporates families and communities. So if I were to summarize it in 2 words, I'd say child advocacy. But I also think it goes beyond that in terms of within the Consortium Addressing Needs, we have an emphasis on policy within our communities that would shift towards more of a harm reduction approach to substance use. And we work on creating like memos of understanding with different organizations where we're helping move things in that direction, slowly and subtly, but that is part of it. So it goes from like the higher level of policy down to individual families and children. So it's a broad thing, but I'd say child advocacy is certainly the central point.
And I love that you all use the word advocacy. I'm a huge fan of people advocating for themselves and for groups advocating for what they think is right. It seems as though at the same time, advocacy is not something that comes easily to everyone. On an individual level, I know working with families or even just friends of mine to varying degrees feel more or less comfortable advocating for themselves in a variety of situations. Is that being a part of your work as an organization and individually? Do you come up with circumstances or experience things that need a little bit of a push forward as far as people's willingness to advocate for themselves or others?
Well, I think because we focus so much on children who, I'm not sure we anticipate or expect them to be able to advocate for themselves, and particularly the children we focus on who are generally either foster children or children who are working with CYFD for some reason. They are experiencing great amounts of stress in their families. So we don't expect them to advocate. So it's more of our role to advocate for the child on behalf of the children, which does include parents. And I've only been with Youth Heartline for about a little more than 2 months, so I'm a little new. My experience so far, though, is that the parents that we interact with are trying to do the best they can, given the circumstances, which are, a bit more extreme right now because of COVID-19. And so in some cases, they're mandated to do so by the courts, but they take that opportunity to try their best. And that's where we focus on, is meeting families and parents and children where they are instead of wanting them to change, which goes along with harm reduction. We don't have any expectation of parents doing anything in particular to be a part of our programming.
That's good to hear. I appreciate you sharing that. How do people in the community get involved in the various programming you offer? I know CASA is a volunteer opportunity for people to advocate for children, and perhaps we can get into that for a minute. And some of the others, it sounds as though with Gusdorf and some of the communities, neighborhoods around here, you're creating a presence and a support mechanism maybe. But as far as the community listening, what would be a good way for them to reach out or get more involved in all that you offer?
Well, we do have a website, youthheartline.org, and most of the information you can find there. We're also on all the social media outlets. We do have a mailing list that you can subscribe to. Any referrals can be, you can just give us a call, and our number is 575-758-0106. And even if that's outside of Taos County, we can direct you to the right place. And then if you're interested in volunteering with CASA, that you can also call the same number, but just a little bit more information. There's a self-paced online training now instead of in person, and that means you can join at any time and do it at your own pace, and which is great and should hopefully enable more people to join. And then the expectations around that are approximately 10 hours, I believe, or sorry, maybe it's 20 hours a month, where you're working with the child, but also working with the court system. And all of that is explained in great detail in the trainings. So it's not exactly a volunteer position where you are working directly with the child all the time. It's not. That kind of makes me think of Big Brother, Big Sister kind of thing. This is a little more logistical and in some ways behind the scenes, but very much in the middle of the scene and within the court system. And a lot of our foster children, if they don't have an advocate, it just is a much more difficult and a messy process for them. And so we really encourage people to reach out to us about that.
And again, not to dive into it too much, but that was actually my question. I've heard about the CASA role, and I think it's acknowledged that it's also very significant experience. It requires a lot of preparation and being present in difficult circumstances. But as you alluded to, it sounds as though, I guess my question is, why is there a need for that role, for volunteers to fill that role? Does it alleviate some of the experience that the child has to go through otherwise alone? Is that what you were mentioning before?
Yeah. So, I don't feel like I'm the best person to speak to this. Yasmin Hawk, who's our CASA coordinator, maybe you can get her on soon. But I would say that, in the court systems, a foster child has the foster family and their biological family, and they're kind of in the middle. And there's a lot of discussion kind of around them and about them, but neither of those parties can really represent the child solely because they're representing their own interest as well. So the advocate, as far as I understand, operates as a sort of an objective party for the child. I mean, they're not objective about the child, but they are all about the child. So they get to be 100% for the child, whereas the other components of the court system are working for their own interest in certain ways. So without that, the child is, sort of on their own, and they don't have as much support to navigate what's happening around them. And as we all know, the court system is really complex and very hard to understand as adults, not alone as children. So, so I don't know if that is true.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It all helps. And what I'm realizing is that, again, the work that Youth Heartline does and many of our PASO network organizations do is so diverse. I think we almost need to spend, one episode per program or area of work that you all do to really dive into it and really make a comprehensive document for people to listen and understand and support in a more effective way, perhaps. I don't want to leave out that you have some opportunities in the near future for community members who might wish to seek some support or just align with the programming you offer. I believe one of them is a parenting class series. Is that right?
Yeah. So I mentioned the Nurturing Parenting program. We have just moved it online, and we're taking referrals. So we're taking referrals for the foreseeable future. It's a rolling online referral process through our website. If you go to our website, you would click on services, and then you'll find the Nurturing Parenting program and the referral link there. Basically, families who are facing substance use are encouraged to join this. It does not need to be through a social services agency. So if you want to refer yourself, you're welcome to do so. It could be grandparents who are parenting as a result of substance use in the family. Could be the guardians or parents themselves. We welcome anyone to join that. It's going to be 2 9-week sessions, and they'll be online. The way that it will work is there'll be a total of 18 topics, but for each topic, there will be a video, activities to do with your children within the family, and then a reflection on how both of those went. So you'll have one-on-one parenting guidance and attention from the facilitator, and the facilitators are trained. So that's the general gist. And you also can, contact me directly at 575-999-5747. And then in terms of CASA, you can contact that number that I gave you before, 575-758-0106. And just to remind people, it's something that one person can do to make a positive impact on a child. And it can be a positive impact for their whole life, really. So I encourage you to think about it. and call us.